So today we'll be looking at those 4 wellness foundations, and we can either visualize this process or better still if you download the worksheet from the link in the description.
So Lyndall, can you talk us through the 4 wellness foundations and why they're so essential?
Absolutely. So we're going to today look at how you eat, move, sleep and nourish. And some self-reflection. Okay. And so we're going to really look at these key foundations because these are the key foundations for your wellness. You know, if you're sleeping well, then you're going to find exercise easier and, food preparation and all of those different decisions that you're making are going to be easier when you have a good base. So we want to look at this as your wellness base. And let's dive into those 4 areas and see which area is the one that you could give the most attention to give you the greatest benefit. So you could either start with visualizing a circle and see the circle cut into 4 quadrants. And one quadrant is eating, one quadrant is moving, one is nourish, and one is sleep. And what we're going to do is self-evaluate. And we're going to look at each of these quadrants and look at where you're at today, right now, and where you want to be. So we're going to plot that on the circle. So if you're visualizing the circle, the middle of the circle is 0% and the outer part of the circle is 100%. So when we look at eating, if you think, 50% of the time I'm great, 50% not so good. You'll put an A right in the center of that quadrant and then a B on where you want to be. It might be closer to the 100%. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the eating quadrant. And again, it's just evaluation to start with. So if we think about eating, what I want you to think about is think of food as how do you refuel your body? What's the quality of what you're putting in? If you want Formula One performance from your body, what are you actually putting in to make that happen? So if you can put an A on where you're at and a B on where you want to be with eating. And I want you not to overthink it too much, just intuitive, what comes to you, so that we get some, just a really nice self-reflection. And then if we think of movement, how fit, how strong, how flexible are you feeling at the moment? And again, just putting an A on where you're at and a B on where you want to be. The next one's my favorite, so nourish. So nourish is all about when you're taking time out. So this is when there's nothing required of you. So perhaps there's no phone. It's about what does this look like? Is there a hobby that you're investing time in? What are you doing when you're in flow, when time just escapes? What does it look like when you're having some self-care perhaps? Or you're taking time to read a book? What does nourish look like? How much time do you allocate to that at the moment? So an A on where you're at and a B on where you want to be. And last is going to be your sleep, the cornerstone of everything. So what's the quality and the quantity of your sleep like at the moment? Are you waking up feeling like you're full of energy? Or are you waking up feeling exhausted and needing to just keep hitting the snooze button multiple times before you get out of bed?
My sleep is terrible.
Okay, appreciate the honesty. It's good. We're about to discover what Sophie's health is like at the moment. And so what you're going to do now is join up all of the A's and join up all of the B's. So you'll have 2 separate shapes. They might be circles, sometimes they're flat tires, sometimes they're all sorts of different shapes. So you end up with 2 separate circles. Now, what it would be good to look at is which quadrant has the largest gap between the A and the B?
Sleep. And nourish.
Okay, sleep and nourish. Similar?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so put a number 1 there. in Sleep and Nourish. So if we were looking at your priorities at the moment of your wellness, we'd look at Sleep and Nourish being the areas that perhaps you could prioritize. And we're just going to park that for a moment. But what we're going to do is go back to eat, and we're going to drill down into eating. And we're going to look at what you could do to take yourself 5% closer to where you want to be. Not all the way, just 5% closer to your B, yeah? From your A to your B. So if we look at that, let's look at how you're eating and how much effort you're putting into preparing your food, because from all the guests that I coach and all the speaking and workshops that I do, we all do actually know what to eat. We know what's good for us, right? But what I don't see is the preparation time going into making that available. So I want you to think about the preparation, the menu planning. I also want you to think about when you're looking at your plate. Ideally, it's that half plate rule. Half is fruit and veg, a quarter is protein, and a quarter is carbs. Do you generally have that most of the time? Now, under eating also comes hydration. So how well hydrated are you? And there's some simple little tips and things we can do with hydration to make sure that it becomes an automated habit, because our brain has enough different decisions and things to remember that they love habits because they're automatic. So if we think about hydration, for me, I have a 1 litre water bottle, and before I eat lunch, the 1 litre water bottle needs to be gone. And before I have dinner, the next litre has to go. So it's about having that in my brain, that I don't have to remember how many glasses of water I've had. I just know that I feel best when I drink 2 litres of water a day. Some it's a litre, some it's a litre and a half. But I have a very simple system that I just know that I have that before lunch and the second one before dinner. So you're trying to train automatic habits. And then, perhaps it's looking at what you do on a Sunday or what you say no to on a Sunday in order to get meal prep done. Freezer is fantastic. So you could have, smoothie ingredients ready to go. You can have things ready to go. So you're organized for the week. I know you're busy. I know you have 3 children. There's not a lot of time. So how do you make eating easy for you? Because it's about, perhaps you have a choice that you don't like, then you start the guilt and all the other things that go with that, and you're feeling bad about what you've eaten. So it's about how do we create an environment for you to have the food choices that you feel nourished by, and going back to, putting Formula One fuel in your body. So there's one thing you could choose to move yourself 5% closer to where you want to be with eating and how you nourish your body. What would that look like?
I think it would probably be the preparation, definitely. I think I am busy, so it can be, a lot of pre-prepared stuff. I tend to look out for the kids first, and then we'll have whatever's left over. So being a bit more mindful of my meal plan, and not just that the kids are getting the steak and vegetables and everything. I have to be having that too, because I often undereat and won't eat at all. So then I've got to prioritize that, definitely.
Okay, so planning. So just next to the quadrant, if you can write down, there's a little area there on the worksheet that says my first choice. And if you just write down planning, and you can really delve into, is that grocery list? So before you go shopping, is it the menu planning before you go shopping? It's thinking about the structure. If that was a project for you, if that was a project at work, you'd work out all the steps that make that project go successfully, right? So it's the same with, this is a project for you. So this is about, how do I have those food choices available, and what does preparation look like for me, and what's going to work for me? Is it the freezer? Is it smoothies? What do I need in order to make sure I'm having regular meals that have a good quality and have a good nutritious value for my brain and my body?
Makes sense.
Makes sense? So you've got some work to do on that one. Think more about the project. And then let's go now into movement. So if we were thinking about movement, let's just talk about that for a little bit before you think about what your first choice is. But just knowing that your self-regulation is at its highest at the start of the day. And it's like a muscle that fatigues during the day. So that's why eating chocolate at 5 o'clock is so easy versus eating it at 7 in the morning, right? Because your self-regulation has just pitted out during the day and you're vulnerable in that time. So if you find exercise difficult, your self-regulation at its highest is going to be where you need to exercise, because there's no excuses. You know, for me, I'm a morning person and I can give you every excuse under the sun as to why, if I haven't done it in the morning, there is no reason. I will make up so many reasons why I haven't done it in the afternoon. It won't happen. So think about self-regulation being at its highest in the morning. And if you find consistency difficult, you know, it's still evidence is showing the best way is to have the training buddy. So if you can't make it consistently for yourself, perhaps you can make it because you're meeting someone else. And then, you know, accessible movement. There is so much that's accessible to us to be able to do from home. You can do a yoga class at home. You can do some Pilates at home. You could go for a walk around the block. It's all about creating the habit. And when you're just starting out, it's not about the quantity. It's about the consistency. And so often what I see when I'm coaching clients is they set themselves up with these big ambitious plans and, you know, set themselves up to fail because they're just too much. So if we just take it back and look at what you can do that's really achievable, and if you can do more on any week, brilliant, knock yourself out, but stick to what you can do consistently. So if you think about your body at the moment and how you're feeling physically, are you wanting to increase strength, cardio, flexibility? Are you wanting just to have some movement to help also clear your mind? What does that look like? So how could you enhance movement and move 5% closer to where you want to be?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty active and obviously running around after the kids a lot, but I'm a runner, so I love running, but I do think my strength training is probably not great. I have a very unused gym membership, doesn't get much action. So I think probably making the effort to probably get up. I'm the same in the morning. I prefer doing it, and maybe just doing some at-home workouts in the morning would be great. Probably a good choice for me.
So bringing that in before your run, or just doing that as a strength session instead of a run?
Yeah, probably both. But I think I normally run at lunchtime from work because I'm right near the beach. So that sort of works out. But yeah, I think doing some strength training in the morning, because I'm a little bit the same as you, Lyndall. I'll go, oh, it's getting a bit late in the day, I won't do it, but I don't need motivation to run because I love it. So,
and I think with strength training, because a lot of people struggle with strength training and the motivation to do it as well. Another way of thinking of it is the health of your tissue, because that's what you're improving when you're doing strength training. And, you know, that's looking at it more as a medicinal form of exercise, that, you know, I'm basically enhancing the health of my tissue in my body rather than I just need to get stronger. Yeah. So think about what it looks like that creates value for you around strength training, and how you could perhaps do it once a week. Yeah. And once you've done it for a month, then perhaps you can get either a little bit longer with that session or put in a second session. But I would be really trying to create that consistency, and remembering at the start, you might just choose 2 muscle groups. You might just do chest and back. That might be it. And that's okay. You're creating the habit and the momentum to then build it out. But you want to make sure that it's super achievable. Whereas if you go, right, I'm going to do a 1 hour strength training next week, you're probably going to get halfway through and go, oh, had enough of this. Yeah. You know, so just make it that sort of 10 to 15 minute habit to start with, so it's achievable. All right, now we're on to the next 2 that perhaps need the most attention. Nourish. So let's talk about this one, because what I see is it's an easy one for people to put last. And yeah, when you're juggling lots of priorities, working full time, 3 kids, looking after yourself, it becomes difficult and easy to leave this one out. But it's the one that really ignites our passion and the fire in our belly. And what I see through coaching is lots of people say, I'll do a hobby when I've retired. And, you know, I see a lot of those guests that are actually retiring. And when they get to that age, perhaps they don't have the strength, the fitness, or even the desire to do that hobby that they've put off all their life. So it comes back to, what are your hobbies and what are some things that you've really enjoyed in the past that you could perhaps drip feed in? Because if it's seeing live music or going and seeing an art show, or you actually doing some painting or some reading, you know, there's little ways we can drip feed this in, because we have this sort of pilot light in our belly that is our fuel and our, you know, that passion. And when we're activating our hobbies, we're basically turning up the pilot light. And over time, when we have had kids and work and all of those things, we just dim that down a little bit because there are other priorities. So it's about consciously thinking about, what hobby could I introduce back in? Because actually, when I go and see live music, I feel energized, and that then radiates through your world as well. And, you know, your kids see you as that passionate role model as well, and that person that is really living aligned to their values. So when you think of Nourish, think of it as hobbies, interests, other things where there's not a specific request on you for something. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Okay. What does that look like?
That's it. I mean, it's hard, I suppose, because it's time, and I do think you prioritize, you know, go, oh, if there is a bit of time carved out, I've got something else that I need to be doing. So it's tricky. But yeah, I suppose, as you said, yeah, definitely live music, reading, going to the beach, all those things are really stuff I enjoy doing. That's definitely hit the back burner. Just with busy life.
And so if you're going to pick one thing, because this is that priority area for you, to move yourself 5% closer to where you want to be, what would be a habit that you think you could actually bring in that nourishes you, that you could do regularly? And think of it as, because there is a lot going on in your world, even take it to smaller habits. It might be that every night you're having a cup of tea, a herbal tea that's not going to, you know, increase your thinking mode and go into that sort of caffeine fix, but actually it's something that's quite nourishing for you as well. Or it might be that once a week you're going to have a bath, or once a month you're going to have a bathhouse at Aurora, or you're going to book a massage, or you said you liked having facials as well. It'd be every 3 months you're booking a facial, but it's something that's consistent. So yes, you love to go to the beach, you love to read, you love to do, but think of this more as you're the project, and putting consistent things in that fuel your wellness, because your B wheel, the outer wheel, that's when you're at your best. And that's where we want you, right? And that's where we want you as a role model to your kids, as a role model to yourself, and for you to feel great and thriving as well. So this is about not staying where we are, but gently just taking that A wheel out a little more every day. And 5% is what we're looking for at the moment.
Feels achievable.
Okay, good. So what is the one thing that you'd like to write down as your first choice next to the quadrant that says Nourish?
I'm going to do Bathhouse. Can I do that?
Okay, sure. It's a nice favourite.
Yeah, it is a nice favourite.
And how often?
Let's go monthly.
Monthly. So can I suggest that you go bi-monthly?
Okay.
So we're going to put it in your diary bi-monthly, and then if you can make it monthly, it's a bonus, because I know you can achieve that.
Great.
Sleep.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to your sleep, the quality and the quantity of your sleep. So where do you feel like you're lacking in this area to start with?
Just not a great sleeper, Lyndall. I would say, yeah, quality not great, quantity not great.
Okay, both.
Yeah, both. But I seem to function off no sleep quite well, I think.
I wonder how your nervous system is
doing.
doing.
Yeah, I know, that's right. Probably not.
And that's
that great.
where we need to think that there's a whole internal process that functioning is okay, but we want you thriving. So it's about how we get you out of that sort of survival mode. Because sleep is the dishwasher for our brain. It's what resets our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. So it's so important that we get that quality sleep. We know from a Chinese medicine perspective that the best quality and where you get the most bang for your buck with sleeping is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And so it's about what can we do to make sure we're in bed by 10 p.m. to get the benefit from that sleep. Now, when we talk about sleep, I guess the thing that comes up is technology as well. And we know that the science is talking about, 1 hour of no screen time before bed in order to give our brains the time they need to unwind. And so we want to think about how do we create the environment for sleep, because we have to train babies to sleep. We don't naturally know how to sleep. I thought when I had a child that they just would know how to sleep, but no, they don't. So they've got to be trained. And we continually need to train ourselves how to create that environment for sleep. And we're going to talk in other episodes about an unwind ritual at night, which I think will be great for you. But if we think about it now, and we think about how you could perhaps increase the quality and the quantity of your sleep, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's not so much technology. I feel like I do find it hard to switch off from so much going on. So probably there's something in that I could go, don't worry about that load of washing, or going through that mental load sort of when you're laying in bed. And then it's not that I'm up and about doing things or raging around. I'm in bed. I just find I can't sleep or I probably sleep between that 10 and 2, and then either side of that is not really a lot happening.
So setting yourself up perhaps with a better ritual for unwinding. One of my clients has an alarm clock of the time that she wants to go to sleep, but she puts it on her yoga mat. And so the alarm goes off and she goes off to turn it off, but she's actually now standing on the yoga mat, and she knows that that's great for her because she's also a runner and she needs to stretch, but quite often doesn't do that before a run or after a run. So the night time is a great time to do some yoga stretches, because there's some very restorative yoga postures that we can do that help to calm the mind down. And so we could look at perhaps, doing a stretch routine or something like that before you're going to bed. There's also little rituals around how you use things like, in the Aspa range, I created the thermal balm. And that, for me, helps to clear my thoughts. So I put that on in the back of my neck, where we generally all have tension from looking down at screens. And that really helps to clear my thoughts before bed. So there's little things you can pull in that help signify to your brain it's time to sleep. And, maybe it's a heat pack on your shoulders, but you can start putting small things in that are consistent so that you're actually inducing an unwind ritual into your world.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, it does.
So is there anything that comes to mind that could be your one thing to help you move 5% closer to having better quality and quantity of sleep?
I think one thing I could do, which I was just thinking about as you were talking, would be even to clear things out of my brain at night, to either journal or to write a list of things so it's sort of out of my head for that time, and I can focus then on sleeping.
So my ritual every night, and again I'll talk about this more in the evening Bookends episode, but I have 3 things that I do every night, and it's either essential oils or thermal balm, because that's the aromatic part. It's journaling, and that can be anything from gratitude to a download of the day to being more aligned to my values, being curious about why I went off track today, or if I was on track, how that felt. So having a full sort of download in my journal. And then when I get into bed, diaphragmatically breathing. And sometimes it's 3 deep breaths and sometimes it's 30. And that's the other thing you can focus on doing when you wake up, is actually how are you then utilizing that time. And it could be that you have a guided meditation that you know of that you take yourself through, or you just focus again on your breathing, because generally if we can bring our attention, I'm guessing when you wake up you're probably thinking of other things that are going on. So if you can try and harness that attention back into one thing, being the breath, you'll find that even if you start at your head and deep breath in, and then just work all the way down your body. By the time you get to your toes, you'll be asleep.
Okay.
Give that a go.
I'll give it a go. Sure.
Okay, so now you've got your quadrant complete. You've got a visual representation of where you're at now, but also where you want to be. And you've got some actionable habits for eat, move, sleep, and nourish that you can put into practice and just basically move closer to where you're thriving, because we know that B wheel is where we want to get to. And, you know, doing this regularly and looking at this worksheet and doing this every 6 months or even annually at the start of the year as a reset as to, okay, where's my wheel at this year? You know, last year I felt like this, but where am I at this year? Is a really good time to take a moment of self-reflection and look at that as well. So I hope you're feeling like you've got some guidance on those key wellness foundations.
I certainly have. It's great to be able to visualize it and actually look at it and, you know, see what's going on. But yes, highlighting sleep being the issue.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in the bathhouse.
I know, that's right.
Bi-monthly or monthly, and seeing your progress.
Thank you, Lyndall.